Hi, I'm Aki and welcome to the beginning of a new tutorial series. This series is going to be aimed at people that already completed their first build and are now looking for more tips or tools that may help them build. We're going to start simple. Today we're going to tackle basic WorldEdit, and as the series goes on, we're going to get into harder and more complex topics. Everything that's going to be explained in this series is going to be useful for teams that still have the mod pack and are on 1.12, and also for teams that are on the newer Minecraft versions. We're going to start by pressing F3 and H. This is going to enable advanced tooltips. And that means that if we go to the inventory and hover over a block, say stone, we're going to see that block's ID. In this case, I'm on 1.12, so you can see the numerical ID for stone, which is 1, and then the text ID, which is stone. If you're on 1.12, you can use any of these IDs. They'll both work. Obviously, the numerical ones are shorter, so it's faster to type. But on newer versions, you'll have to use the text ID. In fact, the numerical one won't even show up. For some blocks, we have the data value. The data value is the number after the slash. So in this case, for cyan wool, the ID is 35 and its data value is 9. 35 means it's a wool, and then 9 is the data value, which indicates the block's state, which for wool, each data value corresponds to a different color. Data values go from 0 to 15. We're going to start really simple and look at WorldEdit selection modes. WorldEdit's default mode is cuboid. We select the first position with left click and the second position with right click. You can see that by pressing right click again, the second position changes while the first point stays in place. You can delete your selection by doing /cell. With /cell poly, we can activate the 2D polygon selection mode. We can start the polygon with left click, and then we can add points to it using right click. And our final point is always going to connect back to the first one. So if we now do /set1, that fills all of our selection with stone. As you can see, although it connects two of these points with stone, it's not a uniform line. Like if we use /line to connect these 2 points, it would not connect like this. It's much prettier using the line command. So that's why you shouldn't use poly while making outlines. The third selection mode is convex. We'll use this selection mode in a while for the curve command. And just like poly, you start the selection with left click and then keep adding points with right click. You can see this last point have a line connecting it to the first one. However, when we do the curve command, it's going to stop at this last point. Another command that we used in the basic tutorial series was Pos1 and Pos2. So say we select our first point and I want to select the second point up here. I can't click on any block. So what we can do is type /pos2. We can do the same for the first position using Pos1. And this also works with poly and with convex. So I start the selection here and then start adding points with Pos2. And if I type Pos1, I'll start a new polygon selection up here in the air. You can also do /hpos1 and hpos2, and that will select the block you're looking at as first or second position. There are other types of WorldEdit selection modes like cylindrical selection, but I'm not going to show it since we usually don't use that while building. Another useful command is /size. We're interested in this cuboid distance value. That value is the distance between the middle of our first position and the middle of our second position. So the distance between the center of this block and the center of this block is exactly 4 meters. And if we were to add the 0.5 meters and 0.5 from this side, you get 5 meters in total. And that makes sense because there are 5 blocks. Now, so we have this goal line, which is also 5 blocks long, and we do /size. The distance between the centers of our 2 blocks is 5.6568, etc. Then, why is the goal line distance 5 point whatever if it's also 5 blocks long? The answer lies in the Pythagoras theorem. If you remember that from school, then you know that the distance between 2 Minecraft blocks that are placed in a diagonal is not going to be a meter, but the square root of 2 meters. This command is useful to quickly measure distances between 2 blocks. But remember, it's the distance between the center of the block in the first position and the center of the block in the second position. This command also technically works with poly and convex selections, but I have no idea what it measures, so don't use it on those selection modes. Next on my list is the copy command. If we select this house right here, and stand here and do /copy, that will copy to our clipboard everything inside that selection, including the air. So let's say I want to paste it over here, up in the air, so I do /paste. So what do we do if we want to rotate that clipboard? Then we do /rotate and then the angle. This only works well with straight angles. So you can rotate your house by 90 degrees, 180 degrees, or 270 degrees. You can also type -90 instead of 270. In this case, I'm going to do it by 90 degrees, and we paste it, and you can see the house has rotated 90 degrees clockwise. There is a way to rotate stuff in any angle, say if you wanted it 45 degrees or 30 degrees, but I'm going to teach you how to do that in the advanced WorldEdit episode. I didn't mention this up until now because it's kind of obvious, but you can undo any operation with /undo. And with /redo, you can redo any undo you've made. If you're pasting something, that will include the air we've copied. So in this case, the air deleted part of the terrain. We can avoid this by doing /paste -a, and that will paste our clipboard without the air. The next command on my list is /cut, and it works exactly as advertised. It will copy your selection, but also delete everything that's in the selection. If we do undo, it will actually restore everything that was in the selection and still keep the thing copied in our clipboard. I forgot to mention this, but this house is actually from BTE Chile, from a neighborhood called Conchalí. Thank you for letting me use your house. You can actually use a mask on the copy command. This means that out of everything in our selection, we can choose which blocks we want to copy and which blocks we want to leave behind. We're going to type in copy -m, then the ID for lime terracotta, and the ID for andesite, because I only want to copy the lime terracotta and the andesite. As you can see, the only things that were copied and were pasted are lime terracotta and andesite. Everything else was left out as air. That's why part of the terrain was cut out when we pasted it. But we can simply avoid this by doing /paste -a. Next up is the stack command. We mark down our selection and then do stack, amount, and direction. U is for up, D is for down, E is for east, W is for west, N is for north, S is for south. I want to stack it up, so I'll use U. And that stacked everything in my selection 15 times in the upwards direction. Now what if I want it in the south direction? Then I just replace the U with an S, and there we have it. Why are they separated like that and not all together? Well, if we look at the first row of our selection, it's all air, and the last block is white concrete. And here we can see how the first row is air, except the last block, that's white concrete. Another simple command is the move command. We'll do /move, the amount, and then the direction. Now, if you need to move a large selection of blocks, I recommend copying it or cutting it and then pasting it where you want it, and not actually using the move command, because copying and pasting causes significantly less lag than the move command. So you probably know how the set command works. That's like the most basic command in all of WorldEdit. What I'm going to do now is show you how to use that command to fill out an area with any pattern you like. So I've made this pattern, and what we're going to do is select it and copy it. And now I've selected this larger area, and what I want to do is recreate that checkers pattern on my selection. So now we type set #clipboard, and it grabbed my pattern and started replicating it all over the selection. Our next command is the replace command. We have our house selected, and we can type in replace, then the ID for andesite, and say diamond block. And that replaced all of the andesite inside of the selection to diamond block. Now I'm going to show you how to use the curve command. And like I said earlier, we're going to have to go to the convex mode in order to use it. So we do cell convex, select our starting point, and then start adding more points. Keep in mind, while adding the points, that the order in which you select your points is going to matter, because that's the order in which the curve is going to generate. So now we type in /curve and the ID for, say, yellow wool. And it generates a curve that goes through all of my marker points made out of yellow wool. This is a really basic but extremely useful command, but I left it out of the beginner series because it was, well, a beginner series. Another very useful command is /middle. So if we type that in and then add an ID, say orange wool, it will find the center of our selection and set it to orange wool. This is very useful, for example, if you want to do one of those triangle type roofs. You select each wall as your first and second position, then do the middle command, and that center point is going to be the tallest point of your roof. Not only can you use this command with 2D selections, but also with 3D ones. The following commands will affect the size and position of your selection. First up is /shift. That's going to move your selection, say 10 blocks, and then the direction, say south. And it shifted our selection 10 blocks to the south. If we wanted to shift it 2 blocks up, we would do it like this. We can also expand the selection with /expand, say 5 blocks up. And to make it smaller, we can do /contract, say 2 blocks up. Now, say we want to run some commands, but we only wanted certain blocks to be affected. Like here I have selected the house, and I'm going to do set 3, which is going to set everything to dirt. But what if I didn't want everything to be dirt, but just the house to turn to dirt? Well, we have 2 options. We could use replace !0, which means replace everything that is not 0 with dirt. And it did exactly that. But what if we wanted to run another command that doesn't have an equivalent we could use? Say if I wanted to paste something overriding certain blocks that are part of the house, that's when we use Gmask. As soon as you hit enter, the only blocks that are going to be affected by all of WorldEdit's operations are going to be the blocks that you placed in the Gmask command. So if I type in Gmask 171:8, which is the ID for light gray carpet, 101, which is the ID for iron bars, and 252, which is the ID for white concrete powder, and the ID for polished andesite. Then hit enter. Now the global mask is set. So if I now set everything in my selection to dirt, only the blocks that I mentioned in the Gmask command are the ones that are going to be affected. Now say I wanted to make a line. As you can see, the only blocks that have been affected are the ones from the Gmask command. What if I wanted to get rid of this global mask? What if I wanted to return back to normal? Well, then typing Gmask will get rid of it. Next up is another command we touched on in the beginner tutorials, and that's the fill command. We type in /fill, then the block we want, and then the radius. And it's going to fill out everything in that 10 block radius with gold. So it fills out everything until it gets stopped by a block that's not air. There's a variation on this command, which is the Fillr command. This command is very similar to the fill command, but it's also going to fill out the layers below you, inside of that radius, of course. Now, you have to be very careful with the fill command, especially the Fillr command, and especially if you set the radius to a ridiculous number, because any little hole you may have in the area you want to fill, and the whole thing is going to spill out. We're now going to look at the walls command. This works with a cuboid selection. Once we have our area, if we type in walls and then the ID, it's going to generate that block as the walls for our selection. Say it's a 3D selection. If we run the command now, it does the exact same thing. Now we're going to have a quick look at generating shapes. The cyl command is used to make cylinders, but if we don't include any height value, it can be used to make circles. So we're going to do cyl, then the ID for stone, because I want a stone circle, and then the radius. And it generated our circle using the player position as its center. But what if I wanted a circumference, say for the circle at the center of a soccer field? Then all we have to do is add an H at the start of our command to indicate it's a hollow cylinder. If you wanted it to be a 2-block high hollow cylinder, then you just add the height at the end. What if you wanted to do a sphere? You use /sphere, the ID for stone in this example, and then the radius. And I'm stuck inside of it because it uses the player's position as the center. And just like with the cylinders, if we wanted to make a hollow sphere, we add the H at the front of the command. So we're here in BTE France's server over in Monaco because I want to show you a cool thing you can do in the newer Minecraft versions. This works if your server has fast async WorldEdit. How do you know if your server has that? Well, you just select your first position and it's going to say FAWE in the chat. That's fast async WorldEdit. And we're going to do a move command, but without moving the air. This doesn't exist in 1.12 and is only available if your server has fast async WorldEdit. So I selected this orange line right here, and since it's a cuboid selection, it includes all of this air right here. I'm now going to tell it to move our selection 5 blocks up, but we can type in -a at the end. And it's going to move our selection, but it's going to omit the air. If we do it like we normally would, then the air would also be moved and my line of diamond blocks would be broken. The following command works in 1.12.2. Now, say we have this white wool line here. This command is used to place blocks on top of already existing blocks or below already existing blocks. So we're going to type in replace, then the greater than or smaller than symbol. In this case, I want everything that's below the wool for gold blocks. Now, because I'm an idiot and I forgot that in the newer versions, the ID for a white wool is not wool, but is white_wool, then this command didn't work. But if you replace the wool for white_wool, then it would place gold blocks right under the wool blocks. Or what if we wanted to place the gold blocks to the side of the wool blocks? Well, the way to do this is different with fast async WorldEdit in the newer versions than in 1.12. So I'm going to show you how to do it on the newer versions first, and then we'll check out how to do it in the BTE mod pack. Now, what we want to do is select our area, in this case, those 4 white wool blocks over there, and we're going to type / replace #offset. Then the distance in the x coordinates, the distance in the y coordinate, the distance in the z coordinates, then our reference block, in this case that's white wool, and then what we want replaced. So in this case, gold block. I want the gold blocks to be placed on top of the white wool. So that's 0 on the x-axis, 0 on the z-axis, and then -1 on the y-axis. If we wanted the gold blocks below the white wool, then instead of -1, we should have typed in 1. Let's say I wanted 2 blocks to the side, then that's 0 on the y-axis and 2 on the z-axis. And that placed the gold blocks 2 meters from the white wool in the negative z direction. Now we're going to see how we can achieve this on 1.12. Now it's a little bit less intuitive, but I'll walk you through it. We're going to type /Gmask equals queryRel, then the distance in the x-axis, the distance in the y-axis, and then the distance in the z-axis. The corrected version is right on top of the command I'm typing. Then the ID, and then the data value. Now this is going to be the ID and the data value of our reference block. So it's 57 in this case, and the data value is 0 because we're not dealing with different states of the diamond block right now. But say if our reference block was orange wool, then the ID would be 35, then a comma, and then the data value would be 1. So in this case, we're going to do 0 on the x-axis, 0 on the z-axis, and 2 on the y-axis. And we press enter. Then we do set gold block. And there we have our gold block placed 2 blocks below the diamond block line. Now if we want the gold blocks to be on top, then we just throw a minus in our Gmask. One last thing before we go, the brush command. You want to grab a tool, any tool that is not the wooden axe. I like to use the diamond axe. And then we type BR, a shape. It could be cylinder, sphere, or even clipboard if you wanted to associate your clipboard with the diamond axe. So you can, for example, copy a tree and then use the axe to place it down. I'm going to use cylinder for this example. After the shape, you type in the block. I'm going to choose gold block, then the cylinder radius, and the cylinder height. If it's a sphere, it doesn't need the height value, it just needs the radius. Now, if we click somewhere, it generates a 5 radius cylinder, but it looks like it's 1 block tall, and we told it we wanted a 2 meter tall cylinder. That's because when I clicked on the grass. So the first layer is going to be the grass, and then it's going to generate another layer on top of that. But that also means if I do it here, it destroys part of my house. So what you can do is select the tool. It is very important that you have it in your hand and type /mask, and then the blocks you want the brush to modify. So if we set it to 2, which is the ID for grass, the only thing that the tool is going to affect is grass. So that second layer is gone because that second layer is made out of air, not grass. Masks are tool exclusive. So if you have multiple brushes, you can have a different mask set for each of them. You can deactivate by doing /mask. Keep in mind that if you have a Gmask activated, that's going to overrule your individual brush mask. Now, what if I have a brush assigned to my hand? My hand is also a tool. Now, I don't recommend this because then every time you right click with your hand, you're going to be placing spheres around, but you can get rid of that by typing /none. And that's it for the WorldEdit basics. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!